There's a debate going on online about what Gillian Michaels of The Biggest Loser said about slavery and how she was seen to be defending uh, the institution of slavery by saying that only about 2% of people had slaves at the time, and that she was supporting what Trump is doing in terms of trying to uh, remove the, I think, slavery exhibitions in the Smithsonian. And people are quite incensed by her comments because they see it as an attempt to defend whitewashing of slavery. So here's what I think. A lot of people struggle with seeing history in the context of the time when events happened. Like, we are living in 2025, whereby the idea of owning a human being is not only reprehensible and repulsive, it's illegal, and you can go to jail for many, many years for that. So it evokes strong feelings of disgust and fear if you even put that thing out. Now, if you rewind 200 years or 250 years, the same feelings are not evoked when that idea comes up of owning a human being. Why? Because it was the time. The time allowed for such things to be palatable. The time allowed for child marriage in many places, and killing a human being didn't have the same effect as it has today, because that was the stage in history. It was part of our journey to being a civilized world, whereby we had to come from the cave where life expectancy was barely 30, and you could be killed anytime by a tribe, an animal, or just random events could kill you. So, pulling up to the slavery era, uh, people were starting to wake up to the morality of owning a human being. And a lot of the things that happened is the interaction of black people and white people. Because before that, many white people had never met a black person, and when they saw how black people were living in tribal ways in Africa compared to their medieval style of living, they considered them as subhuman, and they don't didn't think that these people were worthy of the same rights as them, living in their civilized ways. But then what happened? They started importing slaves to America, and they started interacting with black people. And what happened is that they noticed that, oh, what the hell? These are human beings like us. These are people with emotions like us, with behaviors like us, with intelligence like us. Why am I keeping this person as a slave? So this attitude, even though they were influenced by the Bible in some places they encouraged slavery through scripture and by the ignorance of the time, part of them could see that this was wrong. And then this led ultimately to the American Civil War, whereby they morality took over the country and they did what was right, even though even after the emancipation there was still a long ways to go for black Americans. But uh, it's the arc of history. It's usually not a revolution, it's an evolution. So the time was allowing them to think in this way, to think of slaves as worthy of being enslaved. Now, if we think about it today, we can't we have to put different lens on our eyes to view the past. So the people of today probably would not. Yeah, there's some people with screwed up mentalities who would love to enslave other people. Well, but those are very fringe, extreme groups who lurk in the dark web and in the far corners of the internet. But the majority of people just want to live their lives, and they accept that a lot of history was wrong, and a lot of things shouldn't have been done. But it was the time. So to ask a black person to accept that and say, okay, you know what, I'm white, I know it was wrong, but I wasn't there, and you should not put the blame on me, is a bit difficult because is as much as you were not there as a white person, uh, the institution built by white people was there, and the institution just evolved and is still there. Yes, there's no longer slavery. Yes, there's no longer those Jim Crow laws, but the evolution of the system from then to now does have some residue left over that does impact black people today. And when a black person is asking you to notice those things, he also will ask you to notice the times that we have passed. And asking someone to notice the times that they've passed is asking them to relive those days of subjugation and slavery. And reliving them means using tools available today, such as museums. Museums are a way of going back into the past and seeing history for what it was in a vivid manner, in a tactile manner, so that you can experience what was experienced that time, and then it will give some nuance to some of the grievances that are being called on, that are being expressed by the black people today. So to remove the black exhibitions in the Smithsonian is to try to blur the past. It is to try to soften the impact, the raw impact of knowing what actually happened in the past. And I think that is a foul move on the part of the Trump administration, and also commentary by a personal trainer on CNN shouldn't really be taken seriously because I chalk it up to ignorance and being in an echo chamber. So many people will not understand if they don't, if they stay in their echo chambers and they just recycle the information that they receive from the right wing circles about only 1-2% of the people not being, about only 2% of white people owning slave and we had nothing to do with it, the rest didn't know, all of those things. How do you know that? You've never, you don't want, you want to erase the museum, and you're not, you were not there, so how can you positively know that? How do you know that it was actually 2%? How do you know it was not 5%? How do you know it was not 10%? How do you know that even if it was 2%, all the people were mostly in support of it? How do you know that? You don't know that. This is the reason why the exhibitions in the museum must be in place, not to place guilt on white people, but to help everyone understand what happened, and so that, well, you you get some nuance on some of the grievances faced by the black people today, and have, it's just good to know history overall. Just, you can't hide your history. Same thing what happened in Germany. The Holocaust happened and they acknowledged it, and there's Holocaust museums, there's all the memorials, because they acknowledge that we did this, our country did this, even if I personally wasn't there. But we have to know exactly what happened so that it never happens again.